They were once Nashville's pride, golden voices that defined an era. But when the bright lights of Hollywood called, everything changed. Fame turned to scandal, admiration turned to outrage, and the country legends we once loved became Hollywood's most despised figures. From shocking betrayals to public meltdowns, these Tao of country icons reveal just how thin the line is between hero and villain in the world of fame. Hashtag 1. Morgan Wallen. At one point, Morgan Wallen seemed unstoppable, the golden boy of modern country music. With his rough Southern charm, raw talent, and a voice that carried both heartbreak and rebellion, he became the face of a new Nashville generation. Fans loved him for his authenticity, that image of a small-town kid who made it big without ever losing touch with his roots. Songs like Whiskey Glasses and More Than My Hometown turned him into a chart-topping powerhouse, bridging traditional country with a modern swagger that appealed even to pop audiences. Hollywood saw a potential crossover star, marketable, magnetic, and young. For a brief moment, Wallen was not just loved, he was adored. But that fame came with a price. In early 2021, a video surfaced showing Wallen using a racial slur outside his Nashville home. The clip went viral overnight, and the fallout was immediate and brutal. Radio stations dropped his songs, his label suspended him, and award shows disinvited him. Hollywood, once eager to embrace him, suddenly wanted nothing to do with him. The same press that had crowned him the future of country now called him a disgrace to the genre. Fans were divided. Some defended him, saying he was young and careless. Others saw his behavior as proof that fame had revealed his true character. Wallen issued a public apology, promising to do better, but the damage was done. For months, he was erased from playlists, shunned by late-night shows, and condemned by industry insiders. Yet, something strange happened. While Hollywood turned its back, a large part of the country audience refused to let him go. His album Dangerous, the double album, continued to sell in record numbers, even during his cancellation. It was as if the public outrage only made him stronger within his core base. That contrast, adored by country fans, but rejected by mainstream entertainment, made Wallen the perfect example of how fragile stardom can be. He became the symbol of the Hollywood villain that Nashville refused to abandon. To some, he's a misunderstood rebel who fell victim to cancel culture. To others, he's a cautionary tale of what happens when fame and ego collide. Either way, Morgan Wallen's story reminds us that in the eyes of Hollywood, you can go from hero to villain. 2. Dixie Chicks. Before the storm, the Dixie Chicks were America's sweethearts. 3 women who brought fire and attitude to country music. Natalie Maines, Marty McGuire, and Emily Robison had that perfect mix of harmony, sass, and soul that defined a new era for female artists. Their songs, Wide Open Spaces, Cowboy Take Me Away, Goodbye Earl, didn't just climb charts, they became anthems for independence and defiance. By the early 2000s, they weren't just Nashville stars, they were Grammy-winning icons admired across both country and pop audiences. Hollywood adored them. They were invited to award shows, talk shows, red carpets. The world couldn't get enough of the Chicks. Then came one sentence that changed everything. During a 2003 concert in London, Natalie Maines told the crowd, "We're ashamed the President of the United States is from Texas." It was a remark made in protest of the Iraq War. But in the patriotic climate of early 2000s America, those words were dynamite. Within hours, country radio stations began banning their music. Fans who once screamed their lyrics started smashing their CDs on live television. Hollywood's elite quietly distanced themselves too, afraid of being caught in the cultural crossfire. The trio went from being beloved voices of modern country to traitors in the eyes of much of America. The fallout was unlike anything the genre had seen. Death threats poured in. Their tour dates were canceled. The band, defiant but shaken, refused to apologize. Instead, they turned their pain into music with the 2006 album Taking the Long Way and the haunting single Not Ready to Make Nice. The song was a direct response to their critics, angry, vulnerable, and unapologetic. It won 5 Grammys, including Record of the Year, but even that triumph couldn't fully restore what they'd lost. The Chicks became a symbol of defiance, artists who spoke their truth and paid the ultimate price. Hollywood eventually embraced them again, calling them brave and ahead of their time. But Nashville never fully forgave. They stood at the intersection of art, politics, and backlash, showing how quickly public love can turn to fury when fame crosses into controversy. In the end, their story isn't just about being hated. It's about surviving it, standing tall, and redefining what it means to be a country artist in a divided world. 3. Billy Ray Cyrus. In the early 1990s, Billy Ray Cyrus was unstoppable. With his mullet, charm, and that infectious hit, Achy Breaky Heart, he became an instant cultural phenomenon. The song exploded across the charts, turning him from a small-town Kentucky dreamer into one of the most recognizable faces in country music. His voice, his look, even his swagger, everything about him screamed Nashville success. Hollywood soon came calling, offering him TV roles and endorsements. Billy Ray wasn't just a singer anymore. He was an icon, the perfect blend of Southern heart and mainstream appeal. But fame has a way of turning sweet dreams sour. As fast as he rose, backlash followed. Critics dismissed him as a one-hit wonder, mocking his bubblegum country style. Traditionalists accused him of selling out to Hollywood, of abandoning the soul of country music for fame and fortune. And while he tried to keep his career afloat, his personal life, especially his relationship with his daughter Miley Cyrus, began to eclipse everything else. When Miley skyrocketed to global fame through Disney's Hannah Montana, Billy Ray took on the role of the proud, supportive father. But as she pushed into a rebellious new image, embracing shock value and controversy, the public began questioning his influence. Was he the loving dad caught in the storm, or the one who encouraged it for profit and fame? Interviews didn't help. Billy Ray himself admitted that fame destroyed his family. Yet he kept appearing on red carpets and in reality shows, feeding the Hollywood machine he claimed to despise. By the late 2010s, his image had changed completely. To many in Nashville, Billy Ray wasn't a country hero anymore. He was the father of Hollywood chaos, a man who traded authenticity for celebrity. Even his comeback through Old Town Road with Lil Nas X sparked controversy. Was it redemption or just another publicity stunt? He became a polarizing figure, both celebrated and mocked, both insider and outcast. Billy Ray Cyrus's story is a cautionary tale about what happens when Nashville's sincerity collides with Hollywood's hunger for fame. Once the symbol of country charm, he became a caricature of what fans feared most, the man who forgot where he came from. In chasing the spotlight, he didn't just lose Nashville's love, he became one of Hollywood's most complicated villains. Number 4. LeAnn Rimes. When LeAnn Rimes burst onto the scene in the mid-1990s, she was hailed as the second coming of Patsy Cline. At just 13 years old, her breakout single Blue captivated the world. That powerful, mature voice coming from a young Texas girl stunned Nashville. She was pure talent, a child prodigy who promised to carry the country torch into a new generation. Hollywood quickly took notice. She appeared on TV, in movies, on red carpets, the image of a wholesome, gifted country sweetheart. For a while, she could do no wrong. But fame arrived too early, and it came with cracks. Behind the perfect smile was a life under immense pressure. Lawsuits against her own father and former manager, financial disputes, and constant scrutiny. As she transitioned from country girl to pop country crossover, critics accused her of chasing celebrity more than artistry. Still, she remained beloved. Until one scandal changed everything. In 2009, while filming the Lifetime movie Northern Lights, LeAnn began an affair with her co-star Eddie Cibrian, a married man with children. The tabloids exploded. Overnight, the young woman once celebrated for innocence became the face of betrayal. Hollywood paparazzi stalked her, Nashville turned its back, and social media tore her apart. She was labeled a homewrecker, self-centered diva, and Hollywood sellout. The damage was immense, not just to her reputation, but to her mental health. LeAnn later admitted she entered rehab for anxiety and stress, saying fame had made her forget who I was supposed to be. Despite attempts at a comeback, the stigma lingered. She remarried Cibrian, tried rebranding through reality TV, and even won The Masked Singer. Yet many fans never forgave her. To them, the little girl who once sang Blue had vanished, replaced by a Hollywood version who cared more about headlines than harmony. LeAnn's story became a classic country rewind tragedy. Talent, youth, and fame colliding until everything cracks. She was one of the first to show how quickly Hollywood can turn a Nashville darling into a villain. And while her voice remains as beautiful as ever, Her legacy carries the shadow of a woman who flew too close to the lights and got burned by them. Number 5. Taylor Swift. In 2006, a 16-year-old Taylor Swift stepped onto the Nashville stage with her guitar and a dream. She wasn't just another country hopeful, she was a storyteller, a girl next door with lyrics that felt like diary pages set to melody. Songs like Tim McGraw and Teardrops on My Guitar captured teenage heartbreak with stunning sincerity, and Nashville fell in love. She became the shining star of a new generation, innocent, talented, relatable. Even Hollywood admired her composure and grace. Taylor was the perfect country Cinderella until she decided she no longer wanted to stay in the ball. As her fame skyrocketed, Taylor began blending pop influences into her music. Albums like Red in 1989 marked her full transformation into a global pop icon. But what was a natural evolution to some felt like betrayal to others. Country purists accused her of abandoning her roots, of selling out to Hollywood. They said she traded heartfelt storytelling for polished spectacle, a shift from authenticity to image. The same Nashville community that built her up began to whisper that she had become too big, too controlling, too Hollywood. Then came the public feuds, the Kanye West incident, the Scooter Braun controversy, the string of celebrity battles that played out on social media and gossip columns. For years, Taylor was no longer seen as the sweet country girl writing love songs in her bedroom. She was portrayed as a calculating, revenge-driven superstar. Hollywood labeled her a drama queen, while critics dissected every move, every lyric, every relationship. The world that once adored her had turned into a battlefield of divided opinions. But beneath the image, Taylor continued to reinvent herself. With Reputation, she embraced the villain narrative, turning hate into power. Her snake imagery, black outfits, and unapologetic tone marked her transformation into a new kind of artist, one who owned her flaws and refused to be defined by them. Ironically, the same Hollywood that had vilified her now applauded her resilience. Taylor Swift's journey from Nashville prodigy to Hollywood villain reflects the price of reinvention in the public eye. She didn't fall from grace. She was pushed, tested, and ultimately reborn. In the process, she became something even rarer than beloved. 6. Shania Twain. In the mid-1990s, Shania Twain wasn't just a country star. She was a revolution. With hits like Any Man of Mine, That Don't Impress Me Much, and Man, I Feel Like a Woman, she transformed the image of female artists in Nashville. She brought glamour, confidence, and crossover appeal to a genre that had long resisted change. Shania wasn't the girl in the cowboy hat. She was the woman in leopard print, strutting through music videos that blended Nashville twang with Hollywood sparkle. Her collaboration with producer and then-husband Mutt Lange turned her into a global phenomenon. For a moment, she was untouchable. But success has a way of rewriting loyalty. As Shania's music became more pop-oriented, traditional country fans began to grumble. They accused her of Hollywoodizing the genre, watering down its soul for mainstream fame. Critics sneered that her image was too polished, too glamorous, too far removed from the dusty authenticity of real country. Yet, while Nashville turned cold, Hollywood welcomed her with open arms. She appeared on magazine covers, award shows, and red carpets, hailed as a symbol of empowerment and reinvention. To her old fans, though, she was no longer one of them. Then came the personal heartbreak. In 2008, Shania's husband, the man who produced her biggest hits, had an affair with her best friend. The scandal was devastating. She vanished from the spotlight for years, her voice damaged by Lyme disease and her spirit broken. When she finally returned, the public had changed, and so had she. The once invincible queen of country pop now faced whispers that her time had passed, that she was chasing nostalgia instead of leading innovation. Some accused her of trying too hard to reclaim her throne in a new Hollywood world that had moved on. Yet Shania's story didn't end in defeat. Her comeback album Now proved she still had the fire, but it came with a different tone, one of survival rather than seduction. Still, the image remained divided. To Nashville, she was the woman who blurred the lines too far. To Hollywood, she was the icon who reinvented herself against all odds. Shania Twain became both hero and villain, loved for breaking barriers, hated for breaking tradition. Her legacy isn't one of betrayal, but of transformation. She showed the world that sometimes to stay alive in the spotlight, you have to become the villain they want to see. Number 7. Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus was born into country royalty. The daughter of Billy Ray Cyrus, she grew up surrounded by music, faith, and Southern values, a living symbol of the Nashville dream. As a child, she charmed millions as the wholesome star of Hannah Montana, blending her real-life country roots with a Disney-perfect persona. Parents adored her, kids idolized her, and the world saw her as the next great Cyrus generation talent. She could sing, she could act, and she carried that sweet Tennessee twang wherever she went. For a while, Miley was America's sweetheart. Then Hollywood happened. The same machine that built her image quickly tore it apart. As Miley stepped out of her Disney shadow, she swung hard, literally and figuratively, into rebellion. The transformation was shocking. Twerking on national TV, provocative music videos, bold fashion, public feuds, and controversial interviews. The innocent country girl was gone. In her place stood a wild, unpredictable pop provocateur. For Nashville, it was betrayal. For Hollywood, it was spectacle. Critics accused her of turning her back on her roots, of mocking the very culture that raised her. Her 2013 Bangers era became a cultural firestorm, praised by some for empowerment, condemned by others for indecency. Even her father, Billy Ray, admitted he no longer recognized the daughter the world once loved. Country fans who grew up with the climb felt confused. Had fame changed her, or was this her true self all along? Yet, beneath the chaos, there was purpose. Miley later revealed that her rebellion was her way of breaking free from control, from labels, expectations, and the perfect image crafted for her. She began embracing her country side again in albums like Younger Now and Plastic Hearts, showing glimpses of the Tennessee soul still inside her. But the public memory of her Hollywood transformation never faded. Today, Miley stands as one of the most polarizing figures in the crossover between Nashville and Hollywood, a woman who embodies both rebellion and redemption. To some, she's still that wild child who ruined her image. To others, she's the bravest voice of her generation, unafraid to burn down her past to build something real. In her rise and reinvention, she became what every Hollywood villain secretly is: misunderstood, powerful, and unforgettable. 8. Faith Hill. In the 1990s, Faith Hill was the embodiment of grace in country music. With her angelic looks, powerhouse vocals, and heartfelt lyrics, she seemed to personify everything Nashville held dear: faith, family, and sincerity. Songs like This Kiss, Breathe, and It Matters to Me made her one of the most adored female artists of her time. She wasn't just a singer, she was an icon of elegance, a role model, and the perfect blend of Southern charm and Hollywood glamour. Faith Hill represented stability in an industry full of chaos, but that image would soon begin to blur. As Faith's fame grew, so did her exposure to the glitz of Hollywood. Her duet with husband Tim McGraw, It's Your Love, made them America's golden couple. But it also marked the beginning of their transformation from country royalty into red carpet celebrities. The pair became fixtures at high-profile events, photo shoots, and magazine covers, living symbols of perfection. To the outside world, it looked like the dream. To Nashville, though, it looked like distance. Fans started whispering that Faith had gone too Hollywood, that she had lost the small-town authenticity that made her relatable. Then came her acting ventures, the movie The Stepford Wives, TV appearances, and more glamorous fashion campaigns. Hollywood adored her, but traditional fans began to turn. Country radio, once her strongest supporter, cooled off. Even her personality, once perceived as warm and down-to-earth, began to draw criticism for seeming too polished, too calculated. The breaking point came at the 2006 CMA Awards when she jokingly reacted to Carrie Underwood's win by shouting, "What?" a moment caught on live TV. Though she later claimed it was a joke, tabloids spun it into a diva meltdown, and public opinion shifted overnight. The backlash surprised even her most loyal fans. Faith Hill, the symbol of class and humility, was suddenly painted as jealous, arrogant, and out of touch. The very Hollywood aura that once made her untouchable now made her seem cold. She took a step back from the spotlight, focusing on family and selective projects, but the shift in perception was irreversible. Faith Hill's journey from beloved country queen to misunderstood Hollywood diva shows how fragile fame can be when authenticity is questioned. She never truly fell from grace, but she became proof that in country music, looking too perfect can make you the perfect target. 9. Toby Keith. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Toby Keith was the loud, proud voice of American country music. He wasn't just a singer. He was a symbol of grit, patriotism, and small-town pride. Songs like Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue and Beer for My Horses made him a legend. He was brash, unapologetic, and larger than life, a man who sang what others only dared to say. Nashville loved him. Fans loved him. Even Hollywood admired his charisma, casting him as the tough, all-American cowboy in interviews and award shows. For a while, Toby Keith seemed untouchable, the kind of man who could start a fight and still walk away with applause. But time has a way of changing how people see their heroes. As Toby's fame grew, so did his ego, or at least that's how many saw it. His no-nonsense attitude, once endearing, began to feel abrasive. He clashed with journalists, critics, and even fellow artists. His infamous feud with the Dixie Chicks painted him as a bully, a man more interested in proving a point than making music. When Natalie Maines criticized his post-9/11 anthem, Toby responded by mocking her on tour visuals, depicting her alongside Saddam Hussein. Fans were divided. Some saw him as a patriot, others as a provocateur drunk on power. Behind the scenes, stories circulated about his temper and stubbornness. Industry insiders whispered that Toby Keith had become difficult to work with, unpredictable, domineering, and dismissive of anyone who challenged him. Hollywood, which once embraced his patriotic image, slowly distanced itself as his persona hardened into something less heroic and more controversial. Even his music began to suffer from overexposure. His anthems of pride and toughness, once empowering, started to sound angry and cynical to a new generation. When the political climate shifted, Toby's image took another hit. The unapologetic patriot became a polarizing figure, celebrated by some, criticized by others. Interviews that once came across as confident now seemed combative. Fans who once saw a hero started seeing a man who had become the villain of his own story, someone trapped by the persona he created. Toby Keith's downfall wasn't sudden, but gradual. A slow unraveling of charm into arrogance, of conviction into confrontation. He remains a country legend, but one forever marked by controversy. In the eyes of Hollywood, he stopped being the cowboy hero. He became the outlaw who refused to change, even when the world around him did. 10. Johnny Cash. Few names carry the weight of Johnny Cash. To millions, he was the man in black, a rebel poet whose songs about love, faith, and redemption defined American country music. From Folsom Prison Blues to Ring of Fire, his voice became the sound of defiance and grace. He wasn't just a singer, he was a cultural force. Even Hollywood adored him, the outlaw with a heart, the sinner who sang about salvation. In his prime, Cash was everything America wanted to believe in. Flawed but fearless, dark yet deeply human. But behind the black clothes and legendary baritone was a man consumed by demons. Fame magnified his vices. Pills, alcohol, and anger haunted his every step. His marriage to Vivian Liberto crumbled under the weight of infidelity and addiction. He wrecked hotel rooms, missed performances, and once famously set a forest fire in California after falling asleep drunk. For a time, Johnny Cash wasn't seen as the outlaw hero. He was seen as a Hollywood cautionary tale. Studios refused to work with him. Nashville radio turned cold. Even fans began to wonder if the man who sang about redemption was running out of chances to find his own. Yet, as the legend goes, Cash's story didn't end there. His relationship with June Carter became both his salvation and his most public paradox. Together, they reignited his career and reshaped his image. The bad man redeemed by love. But Hollywood's fascination with his darkness never faded. He was cast as the tortured genius, the fallen angel who could never quite stay pure. And Cash, in many ways, embraced that identity. He performed in prisons, wore black as a statement for the poor and beaten down, and turned his personal failures into artistic fire. Still, not everyone saw it as noble. To some, Johnny Cash was the original villain of country's golden age. A man whose addictions and recklessness nearly destroyed the integrity of the genre. He blurred the line between outlaw and criminal, between honesty and chaos. Hollywood celebrated him, but not always for the right reasons. In the end, Cash became a symbol of both ruin and redemption. He fell harder than most, but he rose in a way few could. The man in black remains a myth, a hero who lived like a villain, and a villain who sang like a saint. His legacy reminds us that even legends can burn in the spotlight they create. Number 11. Glenn Campbell. Glenn Campbell's story is one of brilliance and heartbreak, a shining example of how fame can turn from blessing to burden. In the 1960s and 1970s, he was one of the biggest names in country and pop crossover music. With his smooth voice, boyish charm, and guitar mastery, Campbell became a television darling and chart-topping sensation. Songs like Rhinestone Cowboy, Gentle on My Mind, and Wichita Lineman turned him into a household name. He had it all: the music, the fame, and the Hollywood spotlight. For a while, he was country's perfect ambassador to the mainstream world. But as quickly as Hollywood embraced him, it would also become the place that nearly destroyed him. Campbell's rise came with temptations: drugs, alcohol, and a lifestyle that clashed violently with his clean-cut public image. Behind the smiling TV appearances and family-friendly songs was a man spiraling out of control. His volatile relationship with singer Tanya Tucker became a tabloid obsession, a chaotic mix of passion, jealousy, and addiction that played out in front of cameras. Hollywood loved the drama, but Nashville looked away in disappointment. The press labeled him unhinged, volatile, even dangerous. Friends described a man consumed by self-destruction, missing shows, lashing out at bandmates, and drowning in excess. His charming persona turned darker, unpredictable. At one point, he was arrested for drunk driving and assaulting a police officer, an image that shattered the illusion of the once wholesome Rhinestone Cowboy. For fans who had grown up with his gentle voice and warm presence, it was painful to watch. In the years that followed, Campbell's reputation wavered between pity and respect. Hollywood treated him as a tragic figure, a cautionary tale of what happens when fame and fragility collide. Nashville, though, quietly began to forgive. His later life candor about his battles with addiction, and especially his openness about Alzheimer's disease, restored some of his dignity. His final tour and the documentary I'll Be Me showed a man confronting his own decline with courage and grace. Still, the shadow of his past lingers. Glenn Campbell was both the hero and villain of his own legend, the golden boy who couldn't survive the glitter. He remains one of country's brightest stars and darkest cautionary tales, proof that Hollywood's light can dazzle, but it can also blind. 12. Blake Shelton. Blake Shelton once seemed like the last of the true country gentlemen, charming, funny, and grounded. With his Oklahoma roots, quick wit, and deep, soulful voice, he became a symbol of modern country's balance between old-school tradition and new-age charisma. Hits like Austin, God Gave Me You, and Honeybee made him one of Nashville's biggest stars. But it wasn't just his music that won people over. It was his personality. Blake was the lovable jokester, the good old boy who could make anyone smile. When Hollywood came calling through The Voice, it felt like the perfect match. Nashville's favorite son stepping into America's living rooms. At first, fans adored him. His banter with Adam Levine, his down-home humor, and his genuine mentorship made him a TV star beyond country borders. Hollywood had finally found a cowboy it could love. But over time, that charm began to wear thin. Behind the jokes and laughter, critics started seeing arrogance. Rumors of heavy drinking, rude behavior backstage, and tension with other stars began to swirl. His divorce from Miranda Lambert, once country's golden couple, turned into one of the most publicized breakups in modern country history. The narrative shifted fast, from country's sweetheart to Hollywood's heartbreaker. Then came his relationship with Gwen Stefani, the ultimate pop meets country storyline. While tabloids celebrated the pairing, many fans in Nashville saw it as proof that Blake had left his roots behind. He went from small-town cowboy to LA celebrity, living the kind of glamorous life he once seemed to mock. Interviews that used to sound funny started coming off as cocky. His jokes about other artists or drunken escapades began to feel less playful and more self-indulgent. Even within the industry, whispers grew louder. Blake Shelton had changed. Though he remains a major name and a beloved TV figure, Blake's image has fractured. To Hollywood, he's the lovable rogue. To Nashville, he's the man who forgot where he came from. The transformation wasn't dramatic. It was gradual, subtle, and perhaps inevitable. The line between fame and ego blurred until no one could tell where one ended and the other began. Blake Shelton's journey from country charm to Hollywood controversy closes this list with a fitting irony. He's still smiling, still successful, still adored by millions. Yet to many, He represents how easy it is for authenticity to fade beneath the bright lights. In Hollywood, even the nicest cowboys can become villains when the cameras stay on too long.